Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be repainting my old little Broodlord, technically. I'm going to be painting up the newer cast of it, the plastic version, compared to the old fine cast resin from GW, and seeing if I can recreate the old paint scheme and possibly add some more contrast and colors and detail. So let's go. The first thing I start to do is base coat the entire pieces of carapace and claws with a bluish gray paint and put several thin coats so there isn't any of the white showing underneath it. Then I start to mix in a lighter blue into that gray and start to do some dry brushing with it to add some nice highlights, and keep adding a light blue until it gets to almost a pure blue, still having a little bit of the gray in it. I then take the pure blue and start to do some edge highlighting to it to make it look more like a cold, brightish color on the edges. And then I also water it down on a wet palette, and then with some water or Lamian medium, and start glazing it on some of the higher edges to make it look like it gradients up to a nice light blue color. After I finish painting up the carapace, I then grab some pure white paint and start to fix up anywhere on the skin that I might have accidentally overbrushed onto the skin that was meant for the carapace. And then once after I fix all that mistakes, I then water down a blue wash and then put it all over any of the areas that have a white skin tone to it, to have all the recesses have a nice blue color to it. Once I finish the flesh on the Broodlord, I then start to paint the skin on the spire that it's standing on with a much darker blue color compared to the light blue I used on the carapace. And then I start mixing in a lighter blue that is closer to an off-white, so it keeps some of that coldness but gets brighter and brighter after each layer. I then return back to the armor and add that initial light blue paint, but use it purely as a layer on the small extra piece of carapace between the smokestack looking pieces. Once that's all base coated, I then take the off-white light blue color and then do a fine edge highlight on it to add some sharpness to the carapace. The next thing I do is start to coat the claws up and the back stabbing claw on the tail. Don't know what that's called. But I start coating it up with a dark blue and then just start going up with lighter and lighter blues, doing the edge highlighting with that off-white blue paint, and it will end up looking kind of like the skin on the spire, but not exactly. And then you just want to wet blend a little bit between the colors so they have a nice smooth transition. After coating the little indents in the carapace and the skin with a white paint, I add a fluorescent green paint to add a nice glow effect for some bright popping color to it, to increase the contrast between the dark gray and the white skin. Afterwards, I get another green paint that has some warmth to it, so it contrasts with the cold colors I've been using. And I add this to the tongue, some of the mouth, and the in-between flesh bits, so they all stand out really nicely. Once I finish all the green, I then go back to the blades on the tongue and the teeth, and I cover them up with the original gray paint, and then I add in a little bit of the original blue, so it still has that cold look, and I highlight it with more of the blue mixed in a little bit. And then once that's done, I start adding a texture paint to the base, and I start off with a mud texture paint from Citadel, and then I start adding a snow effect to make it look like a cold blizzard planet, some sorts that the Tyranids are trying to take over. Once all the texture paints are done, I then add a nice dark silver to all the Necron heads around the model, and I base that with a dark silver from Procryl, and then I start lightening up with brighter and brighter silvers, eventually getting to an edge highlight from paints from the Citadel range. And the last step I do for painting this model is grab a dark black paint and start painting some of the lenses of the Necron heads, and then I paint the rim of the base black, which then finishes up this model.